The Caribbean, historically famed as a vibrant crossroads of pirates and colonial empires, is now rapidly becoming a focal point of modern geopolitical rivalry. For centuries, this region was influenced predominantly by Western powers, particularly the United States, through policies like the Monroe Doctrine. Established in 1823 by President James Monroe, this policy was designed to prevent European powers from establishing colonies or exerting influence in the Western Hemisphere, marking the Caribbean as America's strategic backyard. Today, however, this balance of power is shifting dramatically. The unprecedented rise of China's economic power is reshaping the geopolitical landscape of the Caribbean. Beijing's economic and diplomatic expansion into the region poses a direct challenge to traditional U.S. dominance. China's robust economic growth over recent decades has enabled it to extend its influence globally, significantly increasing its presence in the Caribbean through extensive infrastructure investments, strategic diplomatic initiatives, and expansive trade agreements. The scale of China's investment is striking. Its trade with the Caribbean soared from merely $1 billion in 2002 to approximately $8 billion by 2019, highlighting Beijing's escalating regional engagement. Significant projects have included the development of deep-water ports, energy sector upgrades, and major infrastructure advancements, reshaping local economies. Notably, a $3 billion deep-water port in Grand Bahama and a $600 million power grid upgrade in the Dominican Republic underscore the strategic depth of China's involvement. These extensive economic moves are complemented by the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, China's ambitious global development strategy. By 2022, 10 Caribbean nations, including Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and Trinidad and Tobago, had formally joined this expansive network. Critics argue the BRI serves dual purposes: economic integration and geopolitical influence, allowing Beijing considerable leverage over participant countries. China's diplomatic strategy is equally sophisticated. Beijing consistently highlights its approach as mutually beneficial and respectful of sovereignty, contrasting explicitly with historical U.S. actions in the region. China emphasizes cooperation based on equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in internal affairs, a narrative appealing to Caribbean nations historically sensitive to external domination. Yet, this diplomatic narrative is counterbalanced by strategic military and security interests. China's presence in the Caribbean now extends to military and police cooperation, marked by an increase in Chinese military training programs, equipment donations, and security collaboration. Experts such as Evan Ellis from the U.S. Army War College stress that while these activities seem economically focused, they carry potential military implications, particularly in strategic conflicts or wartime scenarios. The strategic implications extend further into the political sphere, particularly with China's approach toward Taiwan. Historically, several Caribbean nations maintained diplomatic recognition of Taiwan, offering critical international legitimacy to Taipei. Beijing has actively worked to reverse this by encouraging Caribbean countries to sever diplomatic ties with Taiwan and align with China instead. Notable shifts occurred with Panama, the Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua realigning diplomatically toward China, significantly altering the region's diplomatic landscape. Compounding these challenges is the noticeable reduction in American influence, largely attributable to changes in U.S. foreign policy under former President Donald Trump. The Trump administration notably reduced funding and diplomatic outreach, including significant cuts to the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Analysts like Christopher Sabatini from Chatham House argue this withdrawal represented a strategic blunder, inadvertently granting China greater influence. Reduced U.S. support left regional governments and civil society organizations more susceptible to alternative sources of influence, notably Chinese economic and diplomatic engagement. Strategically, the Caribbean remains crucial due to its geographical location. Situated close to critical maritime routes and adjacent to U.S. territories, the region is a significant logistical and commercial hub. Islands like Puerto Rico, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic have historically been central to U.S. strategic security policies. The increasing Chinese presence in these areas, therefore, poses direct implications for U.S. national security, potentially compromising critical maritime and commercial routes. Security analysts highlight further strategic vulnerabilities with significant Chinese investments around the Panama Canal, a key maritime artery vital to global commerce. China's increased influence near the canal, including operational control of adjacent ports by Hong Kong-based firms, previously heightened fears in Washington regarding potential disruptions in wartime or strategic crises. While some concerns may be exaggerated, the possibility of using these investments for intelligence gathering or strategic disruption cannot be entirely dismissed. The broader global implications of China's Caribbean involvement extend beyond immediate geopolitical tensions. These dynamics reflect broader shifts in global power, potentially impacting international norms and alliances. China's approach combines economic incentives with diplomatic outreach, offering tangible benefits while subtly challenging established norms dominated historically by Western nations. As Chinese investments reshape economic infrastructures and standards across the Caribbean, new patterns of economic dependency and geopolitical alignments may emerge, altering global governance frameworks. In response, U.S. policy experts advocate a reassessment and proactive strategy to counterbalance China's growing Caribbean influence. They recommend significantly enhanced U.S. economic engagement, including increased investment, trade incentives, and strengthened diplomatic ties. Importantly, experts suggest leveraging international partnerships to diversify regional investment sources, including collaboration with allies such as Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and European countries. By creating economically competitive alternatives, the U.S. could effectively counter China's attractiveness, preserving influence and strategic interests in the region. Additionally, reinvigorating multilateral frameworks and institutions like the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Inter-American Development Bank can strengthen U.S. influence. The United States possesses significant voting power within these bodies, enabling it to catalyze substantial investments and offer viable alternatives to Chinese initiatives. Nevertheless, achieving these objectives requires nuanced diplomacy, significant financial commitments, and renewed strategic clarity. Policymakers must acknowledge historical sensitivities in the region, avoiding perceptions of neo-colonialism or external interference. Instead, emphasizing mutual benefit, respectful partnerships, and shared development objectives could enhance the credibility and acceptance of American initiatives. The Caribbean today stands at a crossroads between competing powers. For the United States, this presents both challenges and opportunities. Maintaining historical influence while adapting to contemporary geopolitical realities requires strategic insight, sustained diplomatic effort, and substantial investment. For Caribbean nations, increased geopolitical attention offers economic opportunities, but also heightened risks, as dependence on external powers might limit sovereign autonomy and increase vulnerability to global tensions. Ultimately, how the United States and China navigate their respective Caribbean strategies will profoundly influence regional stability and global geopolitics. The balance struck in the Caribbean could indeed become a microcosm of broader geopolitical contests globally. With careful diplomacy, investment, and strategic vision, the Caribbean could navigate these challenges towards sustainable prosperity and autonomy, positioning itself effectively in an increasingly multipolar world.